Welcome back, Times and Newcomers. I'd like to apologize to State's Attorney. Last episode, we ripped the heck out of Brushel's testimony. In this episode, we're finding out the real reason Misham was poisoned. Tiny frame. Wow, that certainly is a cute little frame, and by little, I mean really little. It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself.
I noticed that too during my inspection. So what?
Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important. Missing something? Yes, a pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. A troquinine residue!
What? Why wasn't I told about this?
The frame is only 2 inches square. The face of the frame is even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at the most.
You aren't saying...
Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps? Order! 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 The poison stamp was in the frame?
Impossible.
Prosecutor Gavin!
Why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck.
You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see.
What, Mr. Brushel? Please, stop jittering around like that.
The victim was a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends, makes enemies too. End quote.
So the poison stamp might have been a murder weapon aimed at him.
You know what the guitar says, I don't have to say it. Oh, rich. That's rich. Leave the ridiculous fights of fancy to the governor's song lyrics, please.
Finally, something we agree on.
The stamp was a murder weapon? Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? No one.
Oh, I disagree.
Come again?
Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. Misham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail. The mail? Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew red letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon.
Ridiculous. Where's your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon.
I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together.
What is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling.
I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Misham was killed. Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice. A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Misham the stamp of death. Through this letterbox. I'm not sure it's entirely clear to me what this proves, Mr. Justice. Huh? Was I wrong?
I believe we have shown probable intent to kill. Except the killer would be our judge and the victim you.
Yes, the beard will murder you. Ah! Consider that a warning, Mr. Justice. Think before presenting next time before the beard kills you with fire. Yes, Your Honor. Let's think this one over again. A certain piece of evidence points to the truth. Okay, Okay, so why wouldn't it have been the letterbox? Maybe the blackmail letter. Let's try that. Where's the blackmail letter? Vera's car. No, not the envelope. Not the magic show ticket. There it is. Is this the envelope? The one from 7 years ago? Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages in the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor. Ah!
In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison on the stamp, lick, lick, gasp, end quote.
Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked?
He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letterbox.
15 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath. And the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene. Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system.
Such a splendid imagination you have, Airforehead. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poison stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago, yeah? Is that what you'd have us believe? Really?
Well...
It is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility.
Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poison stamp in this envelope. A stamp that then became the murder weapon. How do you intend to prove this seeming coincidence?
Well...
It was 7 years ago and we don't even know who sent that letter.
And your answer is silence, I see. Very well. I move to...
It's not nice to pick on the Fräulein, Klavier.
What? Oh. Emma.
Trollin'.
What? That was random?
Well, like my Kristoph Gavin impression? Did I sound like him?
Oh my god.
Don't quit your day job.
Up yours.
Don't you have a crime scene to be looking after, Fräulein Detective?
Someone had to come dig you out of the mess you're making of this case.
Mess?
You know, none of this would happen if you just trusted in signs a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in that envelope easy.
Care to explain yourself, Fräulein Detective?
Glare at me all you want, but science is on my side. It's all in the residue, right?
That's right! The poison detection spray. Produce the red envelope at once! Beard demands it. You can open it in the authority on the court. Alright, here we go. Aha! Wow, would you look at that?
No mistaking it. That's a troconine residue.
I don't believe it. A murder weapon from the past. Now, 7 years later, it bears its fangs at last. The beard can rhyme.
Absolutely outrageous. Tell me why. Why didn't this murder take place 7 years ago?
Well,
There's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Misham figured it out.
Figured what out?
He realized that the person who sent that letter wanted him dead. So, he sent his reply with a different stamp.
And put his decisive evidence in a frame. You're still here!
Can I make a statement here? On the record?
No, get out before the beard kills you with fire!
I, Spark Razor Tooth Brushel, claim this scoop as mine.
Razor tooth? Okay.
Drew Misham killed in cold blood. By sender of 7-year-old letter. End quote. No. Maybe something more succinct. Star falls after 7-year delay. End quote.
Order! 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 I see no room for further argument here. Though I admit this is all coming as quite a shock. To think the murder weapon reached his mouth after 7 years. Stamp his ticket straight to afterlife, end quote. Ah, Brushel beard.
Uh-oh. I think the witness is a bad influence on our judge.
I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sender of that letter 7 years ago could hardly have been unoffended.
Apollo!
I think we just won. Very well, this court finds the defendant.
Is this the bright future of our legal system?
Prosecutor Gavin?
A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago. Tickets for Gavin's shows are invalid after 2 weeks.
But it doesn't make sense any other way.
It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed this. There's a fatal contradiction in our forehead's claim.
A contradiction?
A poison stamp was placed in this envelope 7 years ago. Thereupon it was framed, until now. If that's the case, then why would Misham have done what he did?
Ema, explain that. He must have realized it was poison.
Therein lies the rub. 7 years ago, the forger Misham sends the trap and puts a stamp in the frame. I do not debate this, but this begs the question. Why, 7 years later, did he use that stamp on the night of the murder?
Ah!
Surely, you don't mean to suggest that Mr. Misham simply forgot. He put the murder weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years and forgot? You expect us to believe he sprang the trap on himself?
Ah! While I admit this is all quite shocking myself, it does seem highly unlikely that he would fall afoul of a trap. And that had been sitting on his desk for 7 years.
Apollo!
I don't think we're winning anymore.
I'm glad to see we're all back to the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you.
Okay, then how do you explain the poison stamp that was in the envelope?
The poison stamp? Where exactly is this poison stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? I see no proofs that such a thing ever existed.
What about the atroquinine residue, huh?
Oh, I agree. That does seem to be atroquinine residue. But our forehead, it's certainly no stamp.
Yeah, but...
Even if your precious poison stamp did exist, Misham never would have used it. That is all.
I believe we've come to a conclusion. Again.
Apollo? Were we wrong the whole time?
I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. It can't be coincidence. I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year. Mr. Justice. Yes, Your Honor. Let's review the facts and see where we stand. 7 years ago, Misham received a red envelope. There were traces of the poison atroquinine on the document inside that envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene, on this tiny picture frame. The defense has indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope. An envelope that has left the scene of the crime with a poison stamp on it.
Yes, but even if this envelope contained the poison stamp, and Misham, knowing this, put it in a frame, he never would have used that stamp.
I'm afraid you're right. Which means there's a fatal flaw in the defense's case. I haven't been on the wrong track this whole time, I'm sure of it. The traces of a trochonide, the envelope, the frame, and Drew Misham's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow. Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us? The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense. Which means that one of our clues must be a fake.
Ah, a fake clue. Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your vile fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah?
The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison's trail is none other than... Oh, man. What's it? I don't think it's a red envelope. I'm gonna say Drew Misham himself. The victim was a fake clue? I'm afraid I don't understand. I'll explain. We have an envelope, a frame, and a mug linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself. Objection!
Congratulations. You've completely lost me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, the forger. It makes a good story, I'll give you that.
The fake clue. Fakes. Forgeries. Ah!
I know that face. That's the I just had an idea face.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going with it anyway. What if our forger is the fake?
Come again?
7 years ago, our forger sniffed a trap and stepped aside. 7 years passed. Now the forger stumbles into that very same trap and dies. Why? That's what I want to know. Because the forger who was killed was a fake.
Here we are again. The victim was a fake?
One forger smelled the trap. One forger fell into the trap. That's two forgers, and one of them was a fake. Order, order, order!
So you're telling us that Drew Misham's the victim was a fake? Well, if he was a fake, who was the real forger? You'd better not be claiming there was some kind of switcheroo.
I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us just who the real Drew Misham was. If Drew Misham wasn't the real forger, there's only one other person it could have been. Understood, Your Honor. Forger Drew Misham was himself a forgery. The real forger was... Vera Misham. There can only be one explanation, really. The real identity of the forger, known as Drew Misham, is none other than his only daughter, Vera Misham. Order, order, order! Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb, even for you.
I kinda agree. I mean, Vera? A forger?
Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. The forger wasn't caught in the trap 7 years ago. This can only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger. Well, actually, that does make a certain kind of sense. One more thing. Only 2 sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studio. Drew Misham's and Vera Misham's. If we know that Drew Misham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility by process of elimination. The forger was Vera Misham. Well...
Fascinating.
Air guitar says yes?
Don't be stupid.
Vera Misham. You've been paying attention to the trial so far.
Let's just ask her and be done with it, shall we? Who are you? Who is the forger, Drew Misham?
Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She's staring holes into Prosecutor Gavin's face.
I'm used to being stared at by Fräuleins, believe me. So they usually talk to me, too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art?
Yes.
Ah. So the forger that drew Misham was you?
Yes. It was me.
What? The court was in an uproar and it wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess. To be continued for about 10 more minutes. Yes. Save. Alright. October 8th, 1:24 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 6.
Okay. So where exactly does this leave us, Apollo?
Well, the Drew Misham who was killed wasn't Drew Misham the forger, basically.
Huh? Well, then who was he?
Well, he was actually doing her nails. So, you really made those forgeries?
Yes. For Father. I know it was wrong.
Could you tell us how it happened?
My father was a painter. I loved painting ever since I was a child. One day, Father saw it in me. He saw that I had the talents.
The talent for making forgeries?
How should I say it? It was not only paintings I made. Given the materials, I could make anything.
Anything?
Father was so proud, and I so happy. But in the end, I was making those
Forgeries.
I've never had a good constitution, nor personality. I know very little of the world outside my door. Now, because of me, Father is...
Do you know about this red envelope?
I remember that envelope. It was some time ago.
So, you were already you were already creating your works back then?
I started when I was only 12 years old.
So the one who figured out the stamp was poison. That was... Mr. Justice, it's time. To the courtroom, please. Right. Out of time.
Wait, Vera! Just one more thing, please. Those 3 paintings in the studio.
I painted those as a part of my work.
Right. See, we checked them out, and we saw what was underneath. We saw the rough sketches underneath the 3 finished paintings.
I see. Mr. Justice.
Yes?
Father, he knew of you. Of both of you.
Your late father?
He was watching, gathering information. All about the Wright and Company law offices.
But lately, we're not doing just law.
Yes, he do tricks, gags to amuse, and played piano.
Well, they're not really gags.
Yet, when Father heard you had resumed the legal business, how pleased he was.
Who was Mr. Misham?
How am I supposed to know?
What if he was Daddy's daddy?
Judging from the relative ages involved, I'd say it's highly unlikely. Things are already confusing enough with all these daddies running around. We know that the victim's daughter, Vera, was the forger. What does that mean for the case? Guess we're about to find out. October 8th, 136, District Court, Courtroom number 3. Court is now back in session. Vera seems pretty tense. She's practically chewing her fingernails clean off.
Perhaps you could begin by telling us how it all worked. How did you set up this Drew Misham forger persona?
There's that stare again. She's drilling more holes into his head.
I know it's hard for you, but hey, he's a handsome guy.
What's hard? Giggity. Very well, miss, if you would, and no more sexual innuendos. Thank you very much. Did you really make those detestable forgeries?
Perhaps you'd rather answer my question. Were you the one who painted that painting? The remarkably similar one?
Yes. I painted it. Yes.
You know, one must doubt why she keeps having to draw the same thing over and over again. Why doesn't she just show the same paper?
Father praised me quite highly for it.
So, she was the one who made the forgeries.
Yet, she did not wish to reveal the truth of their operation. So the victim was a stand-in, a decoy. To the world at large, he was the forger, not her.
I've done a bad thing. I have, haven't I?
Regardless, we need a little more information. About, for instance, this.
Ah.
You've seen this before, yeah?
Yes. It was in the desk drawer.
Very well, you may proceed with your testimony. Tell us everything you know about this envelope. The red envelope.
I created things and Father sold them. This envelope came after my first work. That was other than a painting. Father handled the deal. All of it. I received the stamp that was in the envelope. It was after that job that we moved to the current studio.
There certainly was much of a great interest in your testimony. Very well, please begin the cross-examination. Alright, okay. I need more information about this forger. This Drew Misham. Alright, I'm gonna ask about the job. I think that's the most important thing here. Created things and Father sold them. Came after my first work. Handle the deal. Stamp that was in that envelope. It was after that job. Press! You mean you moved to where the current Drew studio is?
Yes, we saw very few people there. I began drawing picture books.
This single job had tied them to the criminal underworld. I think Mr. Misham wished to reduce their visibility in the world at large.
Daddy had to meet someone for some reason. Father posed as the creator of the work.
So that was the real essence of the artist, Drew Misham. You did the work, and he supplied the face. The red envelope came after she'd completed her first job. That makes it a letter from her client, whoever wanted a forgery made.
Apollo!
We're close. We just have to piece together the parts. A deadly weapon in a red envelope. And the path it took to take Drew Misham's life. And on that note, we're going to end the episode here. Rate, comment, subscribe, favorite, leave a like for awesome voice actors. And next episode, we continue with this testimony.